On today's episode of Andy and Ari on 3, we went on Nebraska coach Matt Rhule's podcast, House Rhules. Did Matt Rhule and Ari squash their beef from this summer? You have to watch and find out. Plus, we answer some great questions from you, including one on the hot seat situation, which seems like it is burning out of control at several places. How many job openings will there wind up being in the power conferences this year? Plus, John Ewing, the insights manager from BetMGM, will join us to talk about some of the week's biggest matchups and also maybe some of the under radar ones that we have not been talking about as much. All today on Andy and Ari on 3, presented by BetMGM. We are sponsored by BetMGM. All the lines, all the totals come from BetMGM. And if you have not signed up for BetMGM yet, download the app right now. Use the sign-up code CFB, as in college football, CFB, and get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how that works. 1, download the app, use the code CFB. 2, deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. 3, you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure to use the bonus code CFB when you sign up. Also, if you've already signed up for BetMGM, well, we got some goodies for you this week too. On October 3rd and 4th, Friday and Saturday this week, you got a college football parlay boost token and a college football odds boost tokens. For the parlay boost token, no matter where the college football action is, there's nothing like getting in the game and leveling up your next parlay. Use that token to boost your potential payout from a winning college football parlay. Odds boost token. Zero in on every snap and activates your odds boost token on any college football bet, and you'll receive a bigger payout if your bet wins. So you get those this week on Friday and Saturday if you're already signed up for BetMGM. If you're not signed up for BetMGM, download the app, use the code CFB, and sign up today. Make this college football season one for the history books. Make it legendary with BetMGM. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers are not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona. Call 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts. Call 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa or 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use the bonus code CFB and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. Welcome to Andy and Ari on 3. Big day on the show. Not really a big guest because we were the big guests on somebody else's show, Ari.
Did I squash my beef?
Hey, it's a good headline. I like that headline.
Matt Rhule, I'll give him credit, man. That guy knows what he's doing.
Yes, he does.
Because you lean into it. That's what you do. You lean into it. If somebody writes something about you or somebody is got your fans all in a tizzy or whatever, you lean into it right to the horse's mouth. And it felt good. You know, we had a private conversation the day that column in the summer ran, the evening of, but it was cool because we were able to discuss that openly again. And it was very similar to the way that the conversation went in private.
So we went on Matt Rhule's podcast, House Rhules, and the episode dropped today, Thursday, October 2nd. If you click that QR code that you see at the bottom of your screen on the video version of our show, you can go to the House Rhules podcast and you can actually watch or listen to it. It's just like our show. It's available on YouTube. It's available on all the podcast platforms. We're going to play a chunk of it today. Ari and Matt Rhule talking about the beef and what happened over the summer. Because remember, Ari wrote a column over the summer that was pretty critical of Matt Rhule. And it was one of those where there wasn't really a heads up. So he was a little surprised by it. And they ended up having a conversation that night, like Ari said. And so you'll get a really good idea, I think, of what that conversation was.
Yeah. You know, the thing that I like about Matt Rhule, too, he's just like a nice guy and like a normal, like rational person. So like that to me is good. And obviously, my intentions when writing the column was to be interesting and thought provoking and not to hurt somebody. And if that's what I did, then of course I'm regretful of that. But that's not just with Matt Rhule. That's with anybody. I don't, my day's not better by making someone else's day worse. And he was on vacation, I guess, when the column ran. So, hey, I'm happy that he forgave me. I think he forgave me. And I still stand by my opinion, and the world turns. And the thing that I love the most is a good discourse about an uncomfortable conversation between two rational people and then getting to the bottom of it. You might not end up agreeing on whether or not, on that topic, but if you can have a functional conversation and try to see where the other person is coming from, that is always good. And I wish we had more of that in our society, period.
Yeah. And the thing is, Matt Rhule's in the content game now. So he understands what we're trying to do. And, we understand what he's trying to do, that he's trying to win games. He's trying to build a program there. They play Michigan State this week. This is a really critical week for them because they're coming off the loss to Michigan. They had a week off. I think they're going to win this game. I think this is the bounce back to get right. And
I think, Andy, too, our fans know, or our listeners and fans know this, that like they know what we're trying to do. We're trying to be interesting. He knows what he's trying to do. He's trying to be interesting. But the one thing I want to make certainly clear, and I know the people know this who listen to the show, is that we don't derive or contrive our opinions in order to move the needle. We write into things that are already interesting. But I didn't make up how I felt about what he said that day because I thought it would make people mad. Like that's just how I felt. And we're always 100% authentic to our opinions and our views of the sport to service the audience in the correct and more appropriate way.
And in this clip you see from the show, Matt talks about how he tries to do that too. And that's actually different than what a lot of coaches, because a lot of coaches don't want to say anything. They would like to get in front of a microphone, get out of there, and not do any damage to themselves or anybody, and not really say anything that anybody's all that interested in. Matt's never been like that. He's always been one who just sort of says what he thinks. And
when you think about
sometimes that gets you criticized.
When you think about the things that Matt Rhule has been through in his career and some of the circumstances that he's had to live through, some of the articles that have been written, some of the circumstances of the firings that he's been through, like what I did is small potatoes. Like my opinion on that is that doesn't compare to the stakes that man's lived through. So, I'm happy.
When you've been fired as the head coach of an NFL team, and I get it, there's money involved, there's buyouts, everything like that. I realize they're well taken care of. But when you have been fired as the head coach of an NFL team, the psychological part of that, it's not easy. Like Ari and I talk about this all the time, how we need to be better at not arguing back on Twitter sometimes when people come at us. But you're a human being and you see somebody, just ripping you, you're going to respond a certain way. And imagine that as an NFL head coach. Like the level of it, any of us, we can't comprehend because we don't have that many people that care about what we do. And with him, he's lived through that. So it was fascinating to hear him talk about that. And we're going to play you a chunk of this. If you want to hear the whole thing, by all means, click that QR code or search House Rhules with Matt Rhule's last name. So Rhules, search House Rhules and it'll come up and you can listen to it. You can watch it. It's a really fun episode. We actually end up talking about food for the last 20 minutes, which is outstanding. And Matt Rhule is one of, like, we talk about the coaches you want to have a beer with, that you want to have lunch with. Matt Rhule is very high on that list. Not an accident that he and Joey McGuire used to work together, by the way. Not an accident at all. Joey McGuire was the previous guest. By the way, so some of the guests on this show, Joey McGuire last week, he's had Will Compton on, obviously, former Nebraska player who has built a podcast empire. He had John Gordon on right out of the gate, the motivational author speaker guy. We are easily the worst guests he's had. Easily.
Yeah. But I guess I'm the only one that ripped him.
That's right.
Air quotes. I will stand by Go read the thing. I didn't rip the guy, but okay. I think
Why are you still you're still arguing about it? Let it go, man. It's all good.
About where I'm the one who wrote it. I know what the motivation was. So, but yeah, let's play the
Once
clip.
you put it out in the world, it doesn't matter what your motivation was. This is one of those. Matt Rhule probably learning this as he becomes a podcaster. Like once you put it out in the world, it doesn't really matter what your motivation is. It matters how people perceived it, and that's how it works. I think you're going to perceive this conversation with Matt Rhule in a very positive way. But first, I want to tell you, while we're on the subject of all things Nebraska, I want to tell you about OmahaSteaks because they got the early Black Friday sale going on right now, 50% off site-wide. If you use the code Andy and Ari, so ANDYANDARI, Andy and Ari, you get an extra $35 off your order. And OmahaSteaks is amazing. I made the tenderloin burgers the other night. So basically, they take tenderloin, put it through the grinder, give it to you in burger form. I just sprinkled it with a little bit of the OmahaSteaks seasoning. It was incredible. Our producer, River, made the beef tenderloins, cooked them up the other night. They looked amazing. There they are right there. Oh, God, that looks so good.
I'm starving.
OmahaSteaks.com. 50% off early Black Friday sale going on right now. And if you use the code Andy and Ari, you get an extra $35 off. All right, Ari. Here is us and Matt Rhule on his show, House Rules.
Here's the real intro. All right. Sports people out there, there is no feud between us. We love each other, and we all love college football. And don't believe. Sometimes content sells, so it's good to have you guys on. No, I appreciate you guys doing.
Yeah,
the time.
Matt, you're keenly aware of this, and we'll just get the elephant out in the room out of the way here. I wrote a strongly worded column about something that you said in the off season, and it went a little bit more viral than I anticipated. But we had a nice conversation on the phone, and I have a ton of respect for what you have done and are doing at Nebraska. And I'm happy you don't hate me. I'm hoping that some of the fans that root for your team every Saturday will grow to love me too. But I will say this in my defense, and we don't have to get into it. It came from a good place because Nebraska is moving in the right direction. When you were hired, I said that they are going to get back with just consistent, sustained competence, which is something that I think is arguable about the past of Cornhusker football, at least the recent past. And, you guys are moving in the right direction. So that's all. But, hey, it might be better for the show if you hate me, though. It's up to you, whatever you want to do.
No, there's not a bit of hate in this heart. And if we're being honest, I do hope people appreciate that, like when they ask me questions, whether it's about scheduling, whether it's CFP, NIL, at least I answer. At least I have a take, right? And so, then it can be so-and-so rips, I've interviewed more people that have ripped me for my takes, but it's better than being boring. It's better than just saying, coach speak. I say what I think, and, people can say what they want afterwards,
Well, and that's the double-edged sword with what we do, because we want you to say interesting things, but then we give you shit when you do, and that I get the hypocrisy of that. I try to ride the line when somebody says things that are like Mike Gundy, who we just parted ways with Oklahoma State. Love or hate Mike Gundy, Mike Gundy always told you what was on his mind, and for people in our business, that was amazing. So I love that. Now, Matt, we got to get into the backstory of the nice conversation you and Ari had, because I'm sitting on my couch on a Wednesday night, and I see a number pop up on my phone. And I'm like, oh, this is probably spam, because I didn't have your Charlotte number. I had your number from Baylor. And so the text comes, "This is Matt Rhule." And that's all it said. And I was like, oh, no. I'm going to have to clean Ari's mess up here.
Yeah. And that was so funny because, every time I make a mistake, whether it be a big one or a small one, my personal life goal was to make Andy be the person who has to deal with it. But yeah, here's my point of view on it. And I think I shared this with you, Matt, when we talked on the phone. And for those who don't know, you had made a comment about scheduling and whether or not it was advantageous for Nebraska to play tougher games in the non-conference when there is an avenue or a route to the playoff that doesn't necessarily require or or benefit enough to put yourself in peril's way to potentially losing a game and hurting your resume. And from my standpoint, on the couch that day when I saw that, I thought Nebraska just got a 5-star quarterback that would never have gone there in another coaching regime. They're bringing in players at a high level. They're developing. They're making less boneheaded mistakes. They're not doing the things that, they did in previous regimes. And it seems like they are right on the cusp of actually doing things in a big way that brings Nebraska football back. And I've watched you, Matt, rebuild 2 different programs before you got to Nebraska. And I appreciate this new version of you, which is I'm going to just speak for everybody. And hopefully this is my last job. I love all of that about you. But my column, at least when I wrote it, or my intention was, hey, you don't need to worry about scheduling because you guys are doing it so well right now that eventually it doesn't matter who's on your schedule. You're going to be able to beat them.
I think that is the hard thing sometimes about, at least over the years, when you read people's headlines, and sometimes the headline's written by an editor, right? It's just, hey, we need to do this to get people in. And I probably, honestly, I'm probably still a little sensitive from kind of the end of my time in Carolina. Normally as you're kind of on the hot seat and you start to go down, everyone's kind of, they're kind of writing their postmortems on you before you're dead. And I'll never forget, like, Adam Schefter texted me the morning I got fired. And he's like, have you been fired yet? I heard you're going to get fired. And I was like, can I get fired first before you ask me that question? But
it's the most awkward thing, though. So I live in Gainesville, Florida. Everybody who follows college sports knows what's going on with Florida right now. And it's the strangest thing being in a small town like this, and Lincoln's very similar. So Billy Napier's kids go to the same school as my kids. And, I see members of the coaching staff all the time. So I don't take the whole conversation about somebody getting fired lightly, because it's not just the head coach. It's also everybody in the organization. Their families have to pick up and move, and we've seen it a lot of times living in this town. It's happened quite a few times over the last few years. So it's such a strange, but to, like, with Schefter texting you sometimes you have to ask people that. You just have to say, are you getting fired? And it sucks.
Right. Yeah. Pete Thamel told me years ago, he's like, hey, there might be a time I'm going to have to put you on the hot seat. And so going into my third year in Carolina, I was like, I think the time might be now, Pete. I get people have a job to do. And I think, to your point, I mean, going back to Coach Gundy, right? I personally, in my time coaching, there's not a coach that I went against that I had more respect for the job they did, X's and O's wise in coaching and roster, than when I was at Baylor and when he was at Oklahoma State. And then he made the comments before the Oregon game this year, and that kind of went viral. But my point very simply is always take out the school name. Because sometimes when I say things, Paul Feinbaum last year said, just worry about that. Well, but is what I'm saying right or wrong? If you think it's wrong, then we can debate it. Is it right? But when Mike Gundy was winning 11 games, everyone loved what he had to say. What he said was exactly right. There's tiers of money right now that we've never seen before, and we pretended like they're going to go away, and they ain't going away. And so let's just call it what it is. Can you win enough games based upon how much your university has invested? I think that's a real college football question, not let's all get upset and take our side.
All right, that is us on House Rules. Now, I highly recommend you go listen to the whole show. If for nothing else, then Matt Rhule talking about his favorite Italian restaurants in Philadelphia, Ari and Matt bonding over their favorite types of pizzas. It's good stuff.
Yeah. And I thought it was pretty cool to have an open and frank conversation about NIL and just talking about it with a coach publicly. Because we have those discussions at times behind the scenes. But, it is interesting the position that those coaches are in from a roster building standpoint, and some of the things that are in and out of their control. I just think it's super fascinating. So go give it a listen. And of course, from my standpoint, wanted to say thank you personally to Matt Rhule for not only having us on the show, but, being open enough to talk to me personally about things that we disagreed with. And I have a lot of respect for you. So thanks so much. And it was awesome to be on a show.
Now, are they going to win? They are 10.5-point favorites against Michigan State. I do think this is one of the more interesting games of this weekend because This is one that Nebraska needs this bounce back. Nebraska needs to be able to beat this level of Big Ten team. And, I'm not sure entirely what we learned from the Michigan game yet. That was a very close loss. It was a 3-point game. They gave up a lot of explosive runs to Michigan. I'm not sure Michigan State can take those from Nebraska. I don't think they can make that happen against Nebraska. But I do think there's a chance this game's a little closer than the spread.
Yeah. I think Nebraska is going to win. I think it's a lot of points, too. What I want to see out of Nebraska is just short up line play. And I don't know if they have a deficiency.
Protect Dylan Raiola, please.
Yeah.
Like that.
And I don't know if, what we saw against Michigan was a clue that they have some work to do in terms of, holding their own, or if that was just Michigan being excellent at what Michigan does. We'll get more context on that as the season goes on. But I still think Nebraska has a chance to win 10 games this year. It might be a little bit of an upper hill battle now that they weren't able to get the Michigan game, in the win column, but they are better than Michigan State. They should have no problem at least winning this.
Well, I'm fascinated to watch it. The spread actually now up to 11.5. So the bettor is confident in the Cornhuskers. We'll see where that winds up, but that is 4:00 Eastern time on FS1. Again, one of the more interesting games of the weekend. This is a weekend that does not have a bunch of huge marquee matchups, but it's got a lot of really intriguing plot line type games. We'll get to a few more of those when we talk to John Ewing from BetMGM later in the show. Right now, I want to get into Dear Andy and Dear Ari. We have some great questions. And the first one right out of the chute is from our friend Nathan, who asks us questions all the time. Nathan's a Nebraska fan, lives in Israel, has been noticing a trend this year. And I think he's right on it. He says, am I wrong, or does every Power 4 conference have a head coach opening already? Is it too early to ask for an over-under on Power 4 jobs that will come open this year? Feels like it is going to be a lot. So Nathan is correct. There's at least one job opening in every Power 4 conference. So the ACC has 2 with Stanford and Virginia Tech. The Big Ten has UCLA. The Big 12 has Oklahoma State. And the SEC has Arkansas. Now, as far as how many, remember, last year did not have many. And it kind of depends on how you want to count Wake Forest, because Dave Clawson didn't get fired. He just stepped down. But you had Wake Forest, North Carolina, Purdue. What am I missing? There's a couple other ones. But it wasn't many. It was a very small year for power conference changes.
Well, I wanted to ask you, because I had this thought last weekend. And obviously there's a few that seem like they could be opening here, maybe even in the next few weeks.
Yep.
But do you think that the rampant firings that have already happened so far this year is an indication that there's going to be a tidal wave of change at the end of the season? Or do you think that the openings that were most likely to become open came open early? I don't know. Is this the beginning of a trend, or these are
this is the question. Yeah, this is essentially the heart of Nathan's question. And so I'll tell you, I had an agent call me this past summer and say they thought there would be 14 to 15 power conference job openings, which I think that might include some backfill, some a huge power conference job opens and a coach leaves a power conference job for that huge job. But I've made a list now, and I feel like it's a fairly conservative list. And again, not all of these are sure things. So I'm counting up. Bad podcasting. Okay. I can give you 14.
Okay.
I can get you to 14, not backfill, just openings.
So are you looking at preseason lists, or are you looking at circumstances that we've found out in the 5 weeks that the season started?
I'm looking at circumstances we found out. And again, I'm being very conservative because, for example, I do not have Kentucky on the list in the SEC. I know Kentucky fans probably want to do something with Mark Stoops if what's happening continues. But I just think the buyout is prohibitive. I think he's got a mid-$30 million, $34 million buyout due. It's either 30 or 60 days, but it's all due in one lump sum right away. I don't think anybody's doing that. I think maybe, but I can't see it. So I didn't put him on that list. So
are you going to go through this list?
Yeah. I'm going to tell you.
Before you do it, though, Andy, before you do it, I wrote we both did a hot off-season hot seat list. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to go through mine as a review.
Yes.
Because we're looking at the openings that River put up there already, and a few of them were on the list already. Like Sam Pittman was on my list. Brent Pry was on my list. So 2 out of the 6, or 2 out of the 8 that I listed have already been fired. Now, I'm going to let you cook now, and I want to see how many of the ones that you say line up with the ones that haven't happened from our hot seat list in the offseason.
Well, I'm also gonna send people to a Brett McMurphy column at On 3 that came out this week that is very educational. So check the QR code at the bottom of the screen if you're watching on video, and you just hit that with your phone and you can read along with us. So what Brett did is he made a list this week of every power conference coach who is either at 500 or worse than 500 since the 2022 season began. And I think that's a very good gauge for who might be in danger. So you've got Mike Gundy, already fired. Pat Narduzzi at Pitt is 21-21. Greg Schiano at Rutgers is 21-22. Billy Napier at Florida, 20-22. Dave Aranda at Baylor, 20-23. Sam Pittman, already fired. Justin Wilcox at Cal, 20-23. Mark Stoops at Kentucky, 20-24. Clark Lee at Vanderbilt, 19-23. Brent Pry at Virginia Tech, already fired. Tony Elliott at Virginia, 15-24. Now, Tony Elliott is hot. Just beat Florida State. His team is off to a great start. I think they're already outperforming expectations, so I think he's probably going to be fine. Clark Lee, absolutely going to be fine. Clark Lee had a really rough start at Vanderbilt. They got better. They are as good as Vanderbilt has ever been right now. So Clark Lee is fine. There's no danger for him. Everybody else, with the exception of Mark Stoops, because I just said I think he's too expensive, is an issue. Although I will say I don't have Greg Schiano on this list because I think that might be too expensive as well, or too expensive for Rutgers. But maybe I'm being a little generous. So we'll start in the Big Ten. The other UCLA's open. The other jobs I have that could possibly open: Northwestern. It could be David Braun. They decide to move on because they want to bring in somebody new before they open that new stadium. Or maybe they just decide to do coordinator flipperoo. We'll see what happens with Northwestern, but they're not very good. They did beat UCLA, so at least they've got one Big Ten win, but that might be their only Big Ten win. Wisconsin, it's really expensive if you want to fire Luke Fickell. It's probably too expensive for Wisconsin, at least for their tastes. But if it goes really badly, like if they get trounced by Michigan this weekend, and it looks like they might not, if they feel like they're in a position where they might not win another game, I don't know. You might have to do something.
Yeah. That is interesting because there is the concept of too expensive to fire, but also circumstances can get worse where that doesn't apply. You know, so we'll see where that goes. Okay. You have more to go through?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We got other conferences, buddy.
Yeah.
Let's go to the ACC. Stanford's already open. Remember, Frank Reich is there as an interim. He has no intention of coaching past this year. So Andrew Luck's going to go hire somebody. Virginia Tech is also open. I have Cal on this list, though Justin Wilcox could save himself here. I would have not put Justin Wilcox on this list at all if the San Diego State game hadn't happened a couple of weeks ago,
right,
where they got shut out. But Cal's doing well. Like if they keep up what they're doing, then he's going to be fine.
And have a really exciting young quarterback, which, as you know, can help a coach.
Yeah. Jaron Chiave Sagapolitelli.
Nailed it.
JKS for short. I have NC State on this list here. And again, this is one I probably wouldn't have put on the list if last week hadn't happened. They lost to Virginia Tech. They lost to zombie Virginia Tech. And that is a bad sign with some very tough games the rest of the way for them. Like they got to play Notre Dame. They've got to play Florida. Who else do they have? They have Miami. They have Georgia Tech. They have Florida State. it could get very ugly. They've lost 2 in a row. They lost to Duke. They lost to Virginia Tech. They play Campbell this week. So they're probably going to win that one against the Camels. If they lose the Camels, totally different story for Dave Doran. But Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, Miami, Florida State, that's a four games in 5 span. That's going to be very tough for them. And I just don't know. I mean, at that point, you have a good quarterback in CJ Bailey. Like, is 6-6 what you wanted out of this?
Yeah.
So they've got to figure that out. I don't think Dave Doran is a sure thing. I think he can definitely pull out of this. Pat Narduzzi, same thing, can definitely pull out of it, but you worry about Pitt. He pulled Eli Holstein at the end of the Louisville game and went with Cole Gonzalez for a little bit. We'll see what they do this week. It sounds like they're back to Holstein to start, but that's another one where they're at 500 and Pat Narduzzi's at 500 since 2022. What happens next? So they play Boston College this week. Boston College just lost to Cal. That's going to be one of those coin flip games that you got to win because they have Florida State, they have Notre Dame, they have Georgia Tech, they have Miami still left on the schedule.
Yeah. Man. It's like there are certain coaches too that like we weren't really speaking about much in the offseason that like still have some pretty important games to win, because circumstances change within the season that we don't foresee in the offseason.
Narduzzi's not a cheap firing. We don't know exactly what his buyout is because the laws in Pennsylvania are a little bit funky, and Pitt does not have to tell you all that much. But we'll see where that goes. It would be pretty expensive. So I think there's a chance also he just wins enough that it's not an issue. But that's one to keep an eye on.
Pitt been satisfied, or did they come into the year unsatisfied?
They're restless right now. I think restless is the key word. I think the loss in the backyard brawl was pretty rough.
Yeah.
All right. The next one in the ACC, North Carolina. Like, they're bad. Mm-hmm. They're very bad. And I was wondering
if you were going to do this.
If this gets any better. And if that doesn't get any better, because like, this isn't like a succession plan where Bill Belichick's kid takes over. Like, if they are as awful as they have been and wind up being 2-10 or 3-9, nobody's going to want anybody associated with them to come back.
The thing that is so interesting to me is that when you hire Bill Belichick, do you hire him with the frame of mind that they better get better immediately? Like that you're hiring a wizard that's going to come in and win 10 games right off the bat. Like, is that what
you hired him to be better than the guy you fired in Mac Brown? Like, and that's what, I was reading the message boards a few weeks ago and somebody said, if we'd gotten the Iowa State coach, how much better would we be? The answer is, and Matt Campbell was not coming to North Carolina, by the way. They tried, Bubba Cunningham, the AD, tried to reach out to him, but they kind of sniffed out that Belichick was maybe wanting the job and that the board chair was making an end run around Bubba Cunningham to get him hired. If Matt Campbell were North Carolina's coach right now, Ari, North Carolina would be one of the better teams in the ACC because Matt Campbell knows what he's doing in college football.
Yeah. My thought process with this was always, if you let Bill Belichick do what Bill Belichick is supposed to do, which is evaluate talent, develop them, and coach them up, that isn't an overnight fix. So if you were to move on from the experiment after 1 year, then you shouldn't have done the experiment.
I don't think they'd fire him. I think this would be him going,
I'm done with this.
I'm not doing this anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that, at the very least, he should have 1 full year, even if it's a bad one, to hit the portal again, get his bearings and try again. If they're this bad again next year, then I could see that. But I don't know that you hire Bill Belichick with the hopes that he could flip a roster, because there's other people in the country that would have been able to flip it faster, especially people who are more familiar with the players.
Like John Sumrall was another one that was a candidate thrown around for that job, the Tulane coach. If John Sumrall were North Carolina's coach right now, they wouldn't be bad.
The one thing that we never talked about, and I'm curious to bring it up now with you, Andy, is that when we were talking about evaluation in the portal, like Bill Belichick is a smart man and knows football. But the general familiarity with the names, having not gone through recruiting yet and all that stuff, does that put you behind the 8 ball if you're like an NFL guy coming in? Like John Summerall probably is familiar with players.
Absolutely. Like when players hit the transfer portal, John Summerall knows them either because he recruited him at Tulane, or he recruited him when he was at Troy, or he was recruiting that high school, and maybe that player was going, like, let's say he was Troy's head coach. He was recruiting that high school. And his entire player was going to an SEC school, but he knew him.
And his entire staff lived on 3 for the past 5 years and knows the lists like the back of their hands. And I'm wondering if it takes a year to just get your bearings on who people are. Like there's so many names. We talk about how often, or I mean, how prevalent the portal has become the last few years. Think about it. Thousands of names. And a lot of times the players who end up at other places end up there because of pre-existing relationships that occurred during recruiting in those circumstances that you just outlined, which is I was recruiting this high school in Orlando, and we weren't good enough to get the left tackle, but he was there and I saw him work out when I was watching this other kid, and he can play. Let's go get him. Like that. They didn't have that. So like, it's awful right now. I don't know if you can jump to a 100% conclusion that it cannot work in 1 year the same way.
I mean, you're not firing. You fully guaranteed his contract. You're not firing him and paying $20 million. Like it would be him deciding this is ridiculous. I don't want to do this anymore.
It was ridiculous to say that he would be no one really said this, but it was ridiculous to think that they would be an overnight success because of him. And I think it's equally ridiculous to give up that he could ever be successful after one season. I think it's like somewhere in the middle, right?
Yeah, so, but again, it would be him deciding, I think, not them deciding.
Yeah.
Let's move to the Big 12. Oklahoma State's already open. Kansas State, maybe, but I feel more confident in Chris Kleiman after last week where somebody decided to let Avery Johnson use his legs or tell Avery Johnson to use his legs. And lo and behold, when you do that, it does very well.
Yeah. I mean, it was a disaster of a beginning of the year.
Yes.
And they did a pretty good job against UCF, but losing to Army in Arizona and almost losing to North Dakota and losing to Iowa State. I mean, I don't know if that was just like the Ireland hangover or if they're just going to be cooked this year. But Kansas State was a team that we could conceivably think could win the Big 12, and now it's been almost painful to watch them play. So, that's certainly something to track moving forward.
We'll keep an eye on it, but that if they play like they did last week, that he's probably fine. Arizona, also, Brent Brennan was one at the beginning of the year. We said, hey, this is one you should worry about. I don't think you need to worry about him right now. Now, maybe it gets they did get housed by Iowa State, but I think Iowa State's going to do that to a lot of people. But
I will tell
Arizona's
you,
looks
just from the
better.
Chat, the wind flew out of Arizona sails last weekend. People were getting excited. Hey, this is a fun team to watch. They beat Kansas State. They can put up points. They've got a good quarterback. I still think Noah Fafita is good. And like they looked like really good the first 3 weeks, and then losing 39-14. I know it was on the road, but they weren't even competitive in that game. And I think that you want to see them be competitive. But so far, I think the early returns on Arizona's season have been, probably more positive than negative. And they're playing Oklahoma State this weekend, so that should probably get them to 4-1. Then you've got BYU, Houston, Colorado, and Kansas and Cincinnati all in a row.
I think if Arizona gets to a bowl game this year, Brent Brennan's fine.
Yeah. It seems more likely they would get to a bowl game. I mean, last year was an abject failure. So bowl game would be a good improvement.
SEC, Arkansas is already open.
Wait, did we forget one in the Big 12?
Oh, what did we forget?
Scott Satterfield in the offseason.
Yeah, Scott Satterfield in the offseason, but I think he's working his way out of there.
Is he good?
He's not. I don't think he's quite good yet, but I think he's veering toward good. And we'll talk about this with John Ewing later. They're actually favored against Iowa State going into the weekend, which is pretty amazing. But Brendan Sorsby, excellent quarterback for Cincinnati. He's been good, and so I think Satterfield may be okay. We were worried about him coming into the season. I think he's going to be okay. We can
they almost beat Nebraska in the opener.
Yeah, so we'll leave that one to track. But I left Arizona and Cincinnati off the Big 12 list. So when I said 14, it didn't include them. So let's go to the SEC. Arkansas is open. We are assuming Florida will open. We don't know when, but we're assuming it will. I mean, basically, it would take Billy Napier winning out the rest of the way.
Yeah.
To save this thing.
We've spoken a lot.
I don't think that's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Auburn is looking really dicey right now. Hugh Freeze's tenure is looking dicey. We talk about the prohibitive buyouts. This one gets added to this list because it is one of the least prohibitive buyouts. It's manageable for them. I want to say it's about $15 million, which is still a lot of money, but not for an SEC school.
But when it's not a lot of money, your standard of what needs to happen to fire them goes down.
Correct. So
definitely.
And that's it for the SEC schools to me. I don't think there's anybody else that's in danger of getting fired, except, again, because I don't think Mark Stoops is fireable. I think it's too expensive.
Yep.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Kentucky finds a lot of money somewhere in a bourbon barrel, but it seems unlikely. But that's the list. So that would be 14 power conference, not including, say, if Florida and Auburn open and somebody from a power conference were to take those jobs and then you fill behind.
There's one omission, actually.
Oh, okay.
Of a person that was sternly on the hot seat in the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
And is interesting now.
Okay.
Brent Venables.
Yes, and I think he's going to be fine.
Okay.
I realize the schedule's hard. John Mateer's out for an indefinite period. Maybe things slide.
Did he win has he won the fan base back yet?
For now, I mean, don't go get blown out by Texas, but yeah, I think they're feeling pretty good.
Okay. I think that's one to track still. Like, they feel like they're out of the woods. They have a terrible injury they're going to have to work through now, and their Texas game is coming up in a few weeks. I don't know if he's 100% out of the woods yet if things go off the rails. So Oklahoma still has to keep winning. Yep.
Yeah, keep an eye on that one too. And it's like Hugh Freeze can turn around Auburn. If Hugh Freeze beats Georgia, we're not even having that conversation again.
Yep.
So we shall see. It's going to be an interesting next few weeks. Before we hit our next question, though, I want to tell you about Brunt Workwear. Look at this beautiful boot. This thing is incredible. This is the Marin. It's spectacular. It's comfortable, but it's also made to get the job done. So the founder of Brunt Workwear, Eric Girard, grew up blue collar. He started Brunt Workwear because he had friends in the trades telling him that the big brands had stopped listening. They hadn't changed in 100 years. They're worried about fashion, all this stuff. So he made a functional boot that looks great, that will hold up to whatever job you put it through, that also is insanely comfortable. Like, you put these things on and it feels like you are walking on pillows. So go to bruntworkwear.com for durable, reliable workwear. Get $10 off with the code ON3. That's bruntworkwear.com, BRUNT, workwear.com, all one word. Use the code ON3 to get $10 off. They will survive whatever you throw at them, and your feet will thank you for it. bruntworkwear.com. Ari, let's get to our next question. This one comes from Andy in Phoenix, who's originally from Tucson. Dear Ari and Andy, watching that garbage Oregon versus Penn State game, are we sure Oregon and to a lesser extent USC don't become another Nebraska and Penn State? Once great teams and programs with great speed at the skill positions that become slow, plodding offenses like Iowa or best case scenario, old school Wisconsin, that will never win the big one or really compete at a high level with the SEC teams or Ohio State. Ari, I don't know what Andy was watching. Like, Oregon didn't strike me as that kind of team playing as Penn State. Oregon struck me as the kind of team that can beat you in that kind of game or in a shootout kind of game. Like, Penn State's defense is awesome. You are not going to draw Penn State into a shootout most of the time. You're going to have to beat them playing a slog. And Oregon proved they could win playing in a slog. I think if Oregon has to play Ohio State and get into a shootout, they can do that too.
I cannot believe that was a takeaway from that game.
That's why I figured your reaction would be pretty priceless.
Well, like, listen, like, I understand, like, trust me, there's nobody more reactionary than me. But I do think that there is this expectation that every team that can win a national title has to win every game 45-10 in order to prove they're good. And, like, that's just not they played on the road in the toughest and one of the three most toughest environments I've ever seen against a team that's got legitimately great players on defense. Like, did we think that they were going to score 40 in that game? Like, I just like don't know what people want sometimes. And like, I think it's a good question, and I'm certainly happy that he brought it up and listens to the show. But like, I came away thinking Oregon could win the national title this year. And like, when you say, will they not be able to compete with teams like Ohio State and other, they just competed with one of the best teams in college football. Now, Penn State's getting a lot of flack, and rightfully so, for losing. But Penn State isn't a bad football team. Like, that's one of the 10 best teams in college football, whether you like it or not. And they beat them on the road. So stale, slow, like those types of words, like I would not think would apply to Oregon in any way.
Yeah, I'm much more worried about Penn State getting drawn into a shootout. I don't know that they could win one.
Right.
I'm not sure their offense is equipped for that.
And I also think that their defense will prevent them from being involved in a game.
From ever getting being even against really good teams. Like, we'll see them play Ohio State. It's probably going to be one of Ohio State's lower scoring games.
Yeah, because it always is. So, I mean, I know Ohio State won a few by a lot, but usually that game is pretty competitive. So, the winner of the game, I would think that like Penn State might be an Iowa type thing where it's like they cannot figure out their offense.
Yeah.
Like they're not.
Yeah. Oregon, I'm not worried about. Oregon was playing a really good defense. They did what they had to do to win the game. When they play bad defenses, they light them up. So I don't think that's a problem.
I don't see Corian Moore running out of the tunnel for Iowa right now. Like, they've got a lot of speed on their team too.
Yep, exactly. All right, next question from Steve in San Antonio. Hey guys, a rules question, and it has to do with when the officials are supposed to, by rule, blow the whistle and call the play dead. The situation is this: a ball carrier will have his forward momentum stopped while on his feet. Sometimes the officials blow it dead almost immediately. Other times they don't blow it dead until a few seconds later, which makes a huge difference. We've seen it a lot where the rest of the offense, mostly linemen, will all start pushing the ball carrier and defenders down the field. It looks like a rugby scrum, and before you know it, was a short game with forward momentum stopped, immediately turns into 8 or 9 yards and a touchdown if near the goal line, all because the whistle's not blown. When are the officials mandated to call the play dead, and why are we seeing so much variance as to when the whistle is blown? Seems to me they're using their own judgment. Thanks, Stephen San Antonio. It's because question. They are using their own judgment. This is the Potter Stewart definition of obscenity from the Supreme Court. I know it when I see it. And that's really what it is so you are supposed to blow the whistle when the ball carrier's forward progress is stopped. Now, every referee or every official is going to give that guy an extra beat in case he keeps his feet churning and gets a second effort push. So they're not going to, the second he stops moving forward, blow the whistle. They're going to give that an extra beat. So if during that extra beat, everybody comes in and the pile pushes him even further, he's going to get those extra yards. But I agree with Steve. There are officials that have a longer clock in their head. Like, okay, I'm going to give this guy a little more time. And it doesn't seem as standardized. Yeah. I don't know what you do about that other than...
Yeah, it's the judgment of the ref. And I understand it's aggravating too. Like if your favorite team or a team you bet on has a guy stopped and then the whistle doesn't blow. And then the next thing you know, what looks like a no gain turns into an 8-yard gain. Like that's a very big difference. Or even, what wasn't brought up in the question, which is a turnover. Like there are times where a player's forward momentum is stopped and they keep the play going maybe a second or two longer than they should, and then they fumble the ball. And so, but like Andy said, I think it's a judgment call, and you blow the whistle when you believe the play is over, and and they all look different too. You never quite know when a play is over, and I actually am okay with them erring on the side of let it go longer, because the actual point of football is to get the person to the ground, and if you can't do that, then you should give them an extra second to try to figure it out. But I do see the inconsistency that you see. That's a good question. And I don't know that there's like a steadfast way of solving it to make it uniform, because how do you take a judgment call and make it a rule? Like, I don't know how you would do that. So, but yeah, I thought it was a good question.
Absolutely. And we got one more from Michael, but before we do that, you want to open a Panini pack?
Am I breathing? Yeah.
Visit PaniniAmerica.net to start your collection today. I have a pack of Panini Luminance right here. we got this 1 of 1 Patrick Mahomes a couple weeks ago. That's the best one we pulled out of this box so far.
Feel better about it.
Every time you open a pack is a new opportunity, Ari. So we're going to rip this pack right now, and we're going to see what we've got. I can already see there's somebody who's in the news in this pack. Oh, here's the base card version of that Patrick Mahomes 1 of 1. I'll take my 1 of 1. Thank you very much. There's Jared Goff. Jerome Ford. Little Eddie George from back in the day. Ooh, here's a good one. This is a numbered to 249 Benjamin Morrison. How about a year 1 signature Abdul Carter with the autograph under there?
I'd sleeve that one.
Yeah, I think I'm going to sleeve that one too.
Yeah.
Got a vestige Brian Thomas Jr. Got a Kobe Hudson. Xavier Watts. And here we go. Shedeur Sanders, Ari.
Yeah.
So hold on. Let me give you this Shedeur Sanders. If you're listening in podcast form, we were mouthing words but not saying them, just like Shedeur did in his interviews yesterday.
Yeah, I didn't know what he was doing at first, and then I realized what he was doing. So apparently Rex Ryan said on ESPN that he speaks.
Told him to shut up, and
shut up. So he mouthed the interview. Shedeur sells, dude. He sells.
That's exactly right. So I'm gonna hold on to this. Even though it's a base card, I'm gonna hold on to that one because
you never know.
Give me some. We may have a little more luminance coming, a little more product coming.
Yeah. If you're wondering why Andy's always the person that's opening the packs on the show, it's because the second that they come into my house, they're opened. Like I don't have the ability to just like you've got unripped packs sitting on your desk. Like that's like it's like. I don't know how I cannot fathom. It's like putting a pizza box in my fridge and expecting me not to open it. Like, come on, what are we doing here? I think we're getting some product, and it would be great if Panini, which by the way isn't juicing the product for us, but if they would just toss some of the boxes that have the Patrick 101s, Mahomes 101s my direction instead of Andy's, that would be great. But
just keep sending them here.
I mean, he's the one opening the packs. It's better for the ad. I get it. This is my thing. And he's got Brunt work boots because he's a person who does work. Oh no, I just dropped everything. It just fell out of here.
Your Panini collection just hit the ground.
Romo Dunze, immaculate patch auto right there to 99. That guy's scoring every week. But yeah, I love cards. It's my favorite thing. And so happy to have Panini on board. And I love watching you rip the packs open.
All right, PaniniAmerica.net to start your collection today. Got some cool college team sets coming. There's a really good Ohio State one that just came out. So it is gift giving season coming up. Christmas is coming up. You may have some birthdays coming up in your family. PaniniAmerica.net. Give somebody a box. Let them break a box. Let them rip some packs. All right, Ari. Next question from Michael. This came in. We had already actually recorded the Ryan Silverfield interview, so we didn't get a chance to ask Ryan Silverfield this. We're probably going to have to text him this. If you will, please ask Ryan Silverfield if he's related to my dad, Stanley L. Silverfield. My dad was born in Birmingham, Alabama in 1923. He was a B-26 bombardier during World War II. I wrote this podcast series, The Silver King's War, about his experience in the war. And so Michael emails pretty frequently. He's a Wisconsin fan. Said, any news on the Luke Fickell pickle? Perhaps Coach Silverfield will move to Madison. And we talked about this earlier with the hot seat stuff. I still think it's probably prohibitively expensive with Luke Fickell, but I don't know if it gets much worse what you do. Wisconsin, 16.5-point underdog at Michigan this weekend. If they put up a fight, that's great. But what if Michigan's just blasting holes in the run game and runs away with this thing?
What's expensive now might not be expensive if you're 2-10.
Right. 2-10, 3-9. All of a sudden, the things that seem expensive are like, well, there's really no choice.
It's the perfect medical. The analogy I use is perfect for the medicine. Like nobody likes paying medical bills, right? Nobody likes
Mhm.
getting when you think you have insurance and you get a bill in the mail from the doctor's office a month later saying you owe more money. No one likes paying that. But if it's dire enough, you find the money. So like that's been the analogy I've been using. I don't know if it'll get to that point, but Wisconsin has been putrid this year. And they were not very good last year. And this is the exact opposite of what we thought would happen when Fickell took over. And the man has to show something. He has to.
Yeah.
And
They
this was
have
the
to
weekend
start showing a fight, showing a pulse. This would be a great weekend to start doing that. They're going to Ann Arbor. Michigan's feeling pretty good about itself after beating Nebraska. This would be the time. So we mentioned a lot of these games are not marquee matchups, but big time plot lines. This is big noon on Fox. There'll be a lot of people watching this. You do not want a lot of people watching you get beat 35 to 10 and Michigan runs for 450 yards. So figure it out quick or the Luke Fickell pickle will get considerably worse. Ari, we do have one more question, but before we do that, we got to talk to our friend John Ewing from BetMGM, Insights Manager from BetMGM. Every time John's come on, he has given us some really interesting stuff, and he has a couple games that he is absolutely burning on. So let's talk to John right now. John, there is a fascinating game happening about 10 minutes from my house that I think the home crowd is more interested in what happens after the game, maybe than what happens during the game. And that's Florida, Texas. But the during the game part is pretty interesting too. Texas is a 7-point favorite. The total on this is 42.5 as we record this. I really don't know what to expect here because I don't know what version of Arch Manning's coming. And then I'm not entirely sure what Florida's defense is going to look like with the injuries they've had.
Yeah, you might be unsure, but bettors aren't. This line has moved from 6.5 to 7 for Texas as a road favorite, and nearly 90% of money is on the Longhorns to cover. So an interesting spot for sure. We haven't seen a lot from this Texas team, at least against good competition. Florida struggling right now, but their season could bounce back here with an impressive win. And we've seen in the Billy Napier era, the Gators are 6-3 straight up and against the spread as home underdogs. So just because they're on a slide right now, historically, they've been able to keep it close at least when they're getting points in the swamp.
Ooh, that is interesting.
Yeah, John,
I picked Texas to cover here. My alma mater has not. It has been kind to me in terms of my picks because I keep getting them right, but it doesn't make the people around here happy.
Everybody picked them. I picked them too. John, when you see a betting split like this, where the position seems to be on the other side, how often is the public correct?
Yeah, the betting's even more lopsided when you talk about the money line and parlays. You're getting over 90% of the action is on Texas just to win this game. It's a very popular parlay play going into Saturday. But we see this all the time. 7 points is a lot on the road, especially against a conference opponent. So would I be shocked if they win but don't cover? No, of course not.
All right, let's stay in the SEC, John, because you've got an interesting stat on Kirby Smart against the spread as a giant favorite in conference games because Kentucky's coming to town, so Georgia's favored by almost 3 touchdowns.
That's right. 20.5-point favorites. A lot of money. 80% is on Georgia to get the cover. But we've seen in the Kirby Smart era, Georgia's just 8-17 against the spread as a favorite of 20 or more points against SEC teams. And in the last 7 such instances, they've failed to cover each time. So really tough spot here. Big favorite. Georgia should win, but that number is where we're going to, that's going to be the interesting part of this game.
Yeah, it's so fascinating to me, too, that like when you put out a stat like that of big favorite in SEC play and everybody views Georgia as this like infallible giant that just beats the crap out of everybody. And then you go back and you look at that stat and it's just like, well, maybe taking the points in this scenario actually is the smart thing to do. I always struggle with what my brain is telling me. And I think that's like the number one most difficult thing about betting in general is like when you're a fan or a consumer of the sport, we all have our general notions of how games should go, but a lot of times they don't go that way. Like, is there going to be a fumble in the first quarter that turns into a touchdown? That'll be the difference. And I'm just so fascinated by, how they, how they keep putting out these lines and just people will just go, well, Georgia's going to win by 100. Bang.
Right. I mean, that's why the spread makes games interesting, because Georgia winning, no one would doubt that. But by how much? That's why we watch.
Now, one where I'm not sure who wins, and I'm fascinated to see, how bettors are handling this one. So you got Iowa State, Cincinnati. Cincinnati, one of the more surprising teams in the Big 12. They went and beat Kansas last week. They are actually favored against Iowa State in Cincinnati at Nippert Stadium. Iowa State undefeated, one of the better teams in the Big 12, or so we think. So how is this one moved, and what are people looking at here?
We're seeing balanced action on this game. The line hasn't moved at all, but in the Matt Campbell era, Iowa State, they cover the spread 60% of the time as an underdog, 28-19 against the spread, and they've won 6 of their last 7 games when getting points. So they're not unfamiliar being a dog. So this is a situation. I always like Matt Campbell, especially when he gets the points, just because he's covered so often for me.
What other games jump out to you this week, John?
Alabama, Vandy, obviously really interesting here. Bama open 12.5. It's been bet down to 10.5. Diego Pavia, since he came to Vandy, 7-1 against the spread of a dog as a dog of 7 or more points.
Dog! The number one dog in college football. That is our inside joke on the show, John, that if we did dog rankings, like who's the biggest dog in college football, it's obviously Diego Pavia. And this just reinforces that.
Because there's 2 meanings on that. Dog and dog,
Yeah, the audience gets that part, Ari.
Yeah, no, I know. But I'm just catching up. I'm on the
I mentioned Florida earlier as a really popular parlay on the money line as a leg in parlays. Alabama's even more so. It's well over 90% of all bets are on Alabama when you include parlays. So if Pavia and Vandy could pull the upset, that would be a good outcome for the sportsbook.
Andy, what he's basically saying.
So gamblers bet this line down because they thought the spread might be too high, but they still think Alabama is going to win the game outright. Essentially, is what you're saying.
Yep, exactly.
What people do, Andy, is if they don't want to bet the spread, they'll do like a 3 or 4 game money line parlay where they pick the favorites and they hope all the favorites win, which basically is what John is saying is that Florida's going to win or Vanderbilt's going to win or someone's going to win this week that blows a hole in all those parlays, because it's very easy to be like, well, I'm going to take Texas, Alabama, and Ohio State all straight up, and none of them are going to lose. But there's always one that, winning parlays is hard. And I think that's like a good way to look at it through the betting lens. Even if you're not a gambler, it's like, well, we have a Saturday slate that isn't necessarily jumping off the page like last weekend's did with high-end matchups. But like when you think about how much money is crossing hands in terms of these money line parlay bets, it's almost like a general certainty that one of these teams is going to win or lose, and it's going to go haywire.
Well, and that's what, John, when we do our pick segment, this week, I didn't realize it as it was happening because I didn't write everything down beforehand. I picked the games as we went. And there were several games that are just what you're talking about, so you got Alabama, Vandy is a double-digit spread. Michigan State, Nebraska is one. Texas Tech, Houston is another one. And Mississippi State, Texas A&M is another one, where the only underdog I picked to cover was Vanderbilt. And I didn't think about it until it was over. And then that's exactly my thought. What Ari just said is like, it's hard to pick 3 or 4 favorites to win. And I think I may have messed that up.
Well, you never know. I mean, again, favorites, it tends to be, just to your point of like the sportsbook usually needs one underdog to win outright just to help with all the parlay liability that we'll get, as it is very common just to add big favorites to a parlay to increase the payout. So the sportsbook often is rooting for underdogs, often rooting for an upset.
John, Heisman seems to be wide open. Let's go down that road. What are you seeing in the betting trends on that, and who might be a good value play?
The favorite seems to change every week. First it was Arch Manning and Cade Klubnik. Then it was Carson Beck and Garrett Nussmeier. Now it's Dante Moore. He was 20-1 before the season began. He was 12-1 last week, and now he's a plus 750 favorite to win the Heisman. He had 248 yards passing, 3 touchdowns against Penn State. So a really impressive win. That's what vaulted him to the top of the leaderboard right now. But I will not be surprised if come, Sunday morning, we have a new odds favorite, because it's just, this might be the most wide open field I can remember.
It is amazing. And I was looking, so you guys send the emails out with the trends. There's a spreadsheet that you attach to it that has how everybody's moved over the from preseason through each week this season. You actually have a column in the spreadsheet that just says after Mateer injury. It's basically, it's what shook everything up. But who do you think has a chance to make the next move? Because it feels like Ty Simpson made a big move. Is it maybe Marcel Reed, or is it Pavia if he can win at Alabama?
What you had mentioned, Ty Simpson, and just for everyone listening, 55-1 before the season started, 20-1 last week, and now he's 10-1. So he's just sitting behind Dante Moore, right there, working to jump up and become a favorite. But he's 1,100 passing yards, 11 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. So he has the impressive stats. It's just going to depend on a team, right? One of these teams needs to take charge and become go on a run. And then I have a feeling that the quarterback will also get the Heisman love from bettors and from the odds makers.
Man, the thing that is so interesting to me about the Heisman race, guys, is that it also is kind of just like a mirror of the national championship too, right? Because a lot of these players that are there at the top of the board, you got Oregon, Miami, Ohio State, Bama, Indiana, all these teams that are at the top. There isn't a single team listed there that isn't technically or alive or somebody that you could see winning the national title. Maybe Indiana and Vandy would be on the outside looking in that discussion, but does that also
not Indiana yet? I mean, let's see what Indiana does against Oregon, Ari. But I mean, Indiana beat Illinois by 53. I don't know about you, John, but I'm viewing them as a legitimate playoff team that can go in the playoff and win games. So the Carson Beck thing's interesting to me because he's the second leading favorite according to the odds right now. It doesn't feel like he's had to put up any kind of big numbers. And does he stay there if they just keep winning, or will there have to be some games where he just blows up and throws 350 yards and 4 touchdowns?
Yeah, just given his awareness from bettors, his odds won't come down unless there's a blow up. The trading team will leave him there just to, if you lengthen his odds, that'll just attract more action. So they're going to be happy with what they've got on him right now. I was just looking back through the odds to win the college football playoff. You mentioned India, still sitting at 40-1. So a bit of a long shot there if anyone wants to get on that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Indiana and Vandy is that I'm with you, Andy. I think that they could beat anybody on a given day. I don't know if they can win 4 in a row.
If I could take Indiana and make the semis, that would be. Yeah. I don't think I would take them to win the national title because I don't know that they'd be able to win that many games in a row.
Yeah. What is the national championship money and who they're picking altering week by week, or is that still pretty steady?
It's still pretty steady. Again, we haven't had enough of a shakeup. Texas losing, that was to Ohio State. That was a good team, so that's not bad. Penn State losing to Oregon, that's not going to be a knock on them, especially with the expanded playoff. All these teams can easily get in with 1 or 2 losses. The top 10 or so has really been pretty steady.
Yeah, I'm looking here at value plays here, Andy, in terms of numbers that you're getting and teams that could get hot. Ole Miss 20-1 and Miami 12-1 are the ones that jump out to me here.
I would think so, yeah. Especially Miami, if they beat Florida State this weekend, has a really clean path to a very high seed and a bye possibly. So I think that would be a big one. Ole Miss still has a lot of hoops to jump through, I think.
The way I look at this guys, is if you get 20-1 or 15-1 or whatever, and you are like fairly certain that team is going to at least make the playoff, that at least gives you some like wiggle room down the line where if they win a game or two in the playoff that you can like start hedging out if you want to do that. But like, I feel like it's like a absolute certainty at this point. And you know how good I am, Andy, at being right when I say something's an absolute certainty. But like, I don't know what would have to happen for Miami to not make the playoff this year. Like, I feel like they're going to make the playoff. So if you go into it sitting on a 12-1 ticket at the beginning of the playoff, John, correct me if I'm wrong here, everybody who makes it for the most part that isn't a group of 5 team or a team that isn't traditionally known as somebody who can compete like an SMU or something is around 7-1 at that point, right? Like you would still have value going into the playoff if you were to take it now.
Yeah, I imagine you're going to have some really bunched up odds there. I mean, it might reflect what's on the odds board right now. There's, 8 to 10 teams all within that 5-1 to 10-1 range.
Yeah.
Well, I am excited to see how this shakes out. Obviously, Miami, Florida State should give us a little more clarity on that this week, and then there's some next week that will give us even more. John, thank you so much. Now I gotta watch that game in Gainesville very closely because you've given me a lot to think about there. Also, a lot to think about the game in Athens, and I wasn't even thinking about that game at all. So thank you, John.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on, fellas.
Appreciate you, John. Thank you. Thanks.
Yep.
That is John Ewing. We will see how this Heisman race goes because it is the odds are very strange. They're fluctuating a lot because we have no idea what's going to happen. Also, a lot of changes. New coaching staffs, interim coaches coming in and coaching against some of these Heisman candidates. There's one particular interim coach that is very intriguing. That's Bobby Petrino at Arkansas. Producer River, I hear you have a question for us to add to the Dear Andy, Dear Ari pile.
Yeah, so the month has turned to October. We're here. It's Halloween season. Last year, I may have done a little bit of foreshadowing, but I was Bobby Petrino for Halloween last year.
That is a great costume. Now, how many? Because this is one of those where if you go to the party, and the ball knowers
knew it. In Nashville, there's just a conglomerate of people that went to SEC schools. So this was actually a Belmont Law School party, and there were some Arkansas alum there, and they were like, Bobby. They knew, like, Bobby, hey. And some people looked at me like, who the hell are you?
Yeah.
But
women, probably.
Yeah. And it was just like, I had to explain, like, well, there's this coach. He was in a motorcycle.
Did you say, want to get on the back of my motorcycle, baby?
No, I didn't. I should have.
Dude, that would have been a good pickup line, dude. You got to spin game.
I know.
Well, and especially like the one girl who knows that.
Yeah.
That's who you marry.
Yeah. But this year I'm pondering Halloween outfits. I want to keep it in the realm of college football, like a college football character.
I think you should do this again because he's now in the news.
Yeah. If there's any other suggestions amongst the crowd, I would love the suggestions to come in, but I'm thinking about reprising my role as Bobby Petrino, head coach, not offensive coordinator. So
what'd you put on your face there? What is that? Just
that
like
was,
red
no, it was a Halloween store. You just go like red blood and they got it.
Oh.
You can
because I still to this day don't know why his face was red. Like, what was that? Just like blood vessels?
Road rash.
Like road rash on his face?
Probably, I think so.
Because he
crashed a motorcycle, dude. It's not pretty. Like when you crash a motorcycle, he's lucky to be alive.
I mean, you nailed the red distribution too. Like, because
I really tried to.
So
I had this picture pulled up as I was putting on the red blood on my face. So, early thoughts. I've thought about being Larry Culpepper, the Dr. Pepper guy. If they don't use him anymore,
people miss him. Although I think the Fansville commercials are a lot better.
They are great. But if there's any other recommendations, I'm open to suggestions. Right now, I think the leading candidate would be Bobby Petrino. But
you could do the Johnny Manziel Scooby-Doo thing too if you wanted.
Yes.
Oh, that'd be good. That would be good. Just get a Scooby-Doo outfit.
Because that's one of those that, like, the people who don't know ball are like, oh, you're Scooby-Doo. And the people who do know ball will be like, you're Johnny Football.
Like,
yeah, you got to get 2 girls to go with you, so you can take pictures with them the entire time. But that's good. I'm trying to think of what else, but let's take the weekend to ponder it, and we'll come back next week, and we'll come.
Well, we're asking this now. We're about 3 weeks out from Halloween.
Plenty of time.
So we got
plenty of time.
We got time. So brainstorm, come up with ideas. We'll see you next week for a little update.
You know where to find us. So when you ask your Dear Andy, Dear Ari question for next week, also include a Halloween costume suggestion for producer River.
Yes.
That'd be perfect.
Yes, it's the best way to do it. All right,
gentlemen, what a week of shows. We learned a lot. We're going to learn a lot more on Saturday, and we'll be back Saturday night, 11:30 p.m. Eastern time. Ari and I will be at Doak Campbell Stadium. We'll have just watched the Miami-Florida State game. It's going to be a lot of fun. Cannot wait for that show. I love Saturdays in the fall. We'll talk to you then.